Now let's look at this other aspect, which is inflation. Inflation can be defined as the persistent rise in the general price level of goods and services in a country. So inflation occurs as a result of increase in money supply in an economy. It's important to know that inflation is not just an increase in price of goods and services. It is a persistent increase or a persistent rise. So the increase in price of goods must be persistent. It must be sustained. It must be a continuous increase in prices of goods and services. Not just goods, it must be increase. It must be a persistent increase in price of goods and services. So if we don't have a persistent increase in prices, we cannot have inflation. So why do we have inflation? It's because of increase in money supply in an economy. Don't forget the quantity theory of money that we've discussed. Quantity theory of money says that money supply determines the price level of goods and services in a country. So when money supply increases, price level of goods and services will automatically increase, which will bring about inflation in an economy. Now let's look at ways of measuring inflation. Measurement of inflation. There are three ways of measuring inflation. Number one is the consumer price index. Consumer price index measures the increase in final price of goods and services in a country between one period and another period. So the consumer price index is determined by dividing the price of commodity in current year by price of commodity in base year and multiplying it by 100 over 1. So because it's as a percentage. So the consumer price index will enable us to determine the changes in final price of goods and services between one period and another period. Number two is wholesale price index. Wholesale price index measures the changes in price of inputs used in production of goods and services between one period and another period. So the changes in price of inputs, which is changes in price of factors of production. All right, that's wholesale price index. Number three is the GDP deflator. GDP deflator, GDP deflator can also be called GDP implicit deflator. So it measures changes in prices of goods and services in a country between one period and another period. Please note that GDP deflator measures changes in price of goods and services. Don't forget that consumer price index measures changes in final price, but GDP deflator measures changes in prices of goods and services between one period and another. It is a ratio of nominal GNP to real GNP as a percentage. So to calculate our GDP deflator, it is nominal GDP divided by real GDP times 100 over 1.